Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to view Storm of the Century, Episode 2 review. There's a lot of things going on in this episode compared to the first. I was overwhelmed because I'm like, man, am I going to remember all this? But one thing or two that I did ended up forgetting from the first episode is we, of course, have the saying, give me what I want and I'll leave. We have that being much more used heavily in this episode. And so when we have Andre who is telling people this and painting it in blood all over the place, we then have people that are just like, well, like, what the does he want? Like, give it to him. Like, and people are already making these conclusions that they're like, well, hey, like, maybe we can kill him. Maybe we can murder him. Like, maybe you should make it look like an accident and try to kill this character off. And Mike, who's just like, no. Like, that is wrong. Like, how can we go on and try to kill this man with us also realizing how powerful he is anyways? So, and the also interesting thing within this episode, we, of course, go on and have it where when Andre is to kill anyone off, or when someone is to get killed within this episode specifically, but also in the first episode, we have either Andre himself or someone else singing I'm a Little Teapot, which is so creepy when you kind of put it into this context, because kind of when you think about the words, where more than likely someone is so full of sin that it's just pouring out of them and they can't control it and they can't stop it, we really just start to have Andre, I guess, really having people's evil come to the surface, and Andre is to finally like do away with them because of their sin coming so close to the surface, and he is to whiff it out. So possibly what I'm a Little Teapot could possibly mean, how these people are so afraid and so scared that every little mistake that they have ever made is starting to brim to the surface, wondering if they're going to be next on the chopping block because of what little thing that they did in the past that they regret. So, to the point of Andre even whiffing out a sin, of course, that even Mike was to have. And it seems that Mike is a all well and good guy, but everyone is to have a little tiny blemish, a little mistake. That, of course, Andre Linoge, saying that correctly now, it's Linoge, is to just siphon out of people. So, within this episode, we have, of course, Andre, who is to, even in a cell, start to one by one kill off more people. Having a kind of puppet on a string kind of scenario where we, of course, have Linoge, who either by himself or his cane is to start to manipulate people and have them starting to die. And the weird thing about this town is that when I guess you go on and kill people, I guess not everyone gets arrested. Not everyone goes to jail. If it seems like you have a thing of like, well, like, I think a cane made me do it, then, like, they're just like, oh yeah, she's not a killer, like, let's not arrest her, like, let's not, like, book 'em Dano or anything like that. No, like, I think she's fine. I think she just needs to rest. No! If she has killed somebody, I would tie her up into a chair and just be like, dude, you're sleeping like that. I am not going to trust you with a room of a number of people when really looking at it, like, you have more of a sin than anybody else does in this room because you've just killed someone. Uh, so, anyways, if we weren't to, in the first episode, find out about Robbie's dark past, about Robbie not going on and being with his mother and instead being with a prostitute, cheating on his wife, and come to find out, Robbie's wife in this episode is deciding that she wants to leave her husband. And she's just realized it now. We also go on and have Robbie, who is still dealing with the spirit of his mother, and we have Andre, who is playing up that fact and is trying to push Robbie into making a death out of desperation, to just want this all to be over, hoping that if he just goes on and kills Andre Lenoge, that all of this will go away. Come to find out, these characters do not realize how really and truly powerful this man really is. This guy, of course, is to go into prison because he let them put him in prison. Like, he could have disappeared, escaped at any moment, but he just decided, like, well, like, I'm just gonna stick around, see what happens. Play with my food before I technically eat it. So that is to be Andre here. So yeah, really enjoying this show. I wanted to go on and like not give much of a grading because I feel that I definitely liked Storm of the Century overall. And this episode really cemented that, like just the really creepy vibes, the mystery of it all. It really is a great show. So considering I'm almost done with the show, we'll see how it all plays out. But with that said, I think for the most point, in a very like kind of bits and pieces and stuff like that, I went on and explained a good portion of this episode, kind of teed it up. So let's just go on and let's get into spoilers because there is a lot to freaking explain in this episode. There's a lot to digest, of which that I hope that I could have remembered it all because there's just a lot. So with that said, let's go on into that double 5 time territory because it's about that time yet again to go on to spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time to spoil this episode. So we are to go on and find out that Fred is to run back to where all the people in the town are, or Ferd. It's such a weird like change of a name. Instead of Fred, it's Ferd. Ferd, the fireman, is to run off to make it to the townspeople and talk to Robbie and Henry to mention that Lloyd is dead. Lloyd had killed himself. He had took an axe to his own head. And so Robbie and Henry are going on and investigating this dead body, and come to find out, we then go on to have Hatch and a number of other guys also find Godstow's body as he has gone on to hang himself. So they go on and they take Godstow's body and they put him outside and they just wrap him up in this blanket and bury him out there because this is a horrible storm. What exactly else could they do? And we see later that Ursula is to find Godso's body and is to be very torn up about this death. Um, but yeah, so we have Robbie and we have Henry make their way to the fire department, the fire station, and they end up finding Lloyd's body, and they're like, well, yeah, like this guy's dead. And they again have the sign of like, give me what I want and I will leave. So we have Robbie and Henry driving back, and so we of course have Mike, who is telling Hatch and I think Kurt to go on and meet with Robbie and Henry, and for also Hatch to talk to Ursula on the radio in his car, because the radio that they have in the police station doesn't work because the antenna broke. So we have Hatch talking to Ursula, and so Hatch doesn't want to go on and tell Ursula that Godso is dead. So we go on to have Hatch talking to Robbie and Henry, and so Robbie and Henry are to tell Hatch that Lloyd is dead and what it all happened, like describing everything. So Hatch is like, okay, like come back and come back in with us. So we, of course, have Mike, who is to look at the piece of paper that Godso is to have on him, and it's like, okay, like, how is it that Godso was to have this paper on him? This doesn't make any sense. But then Mike is to also look at the word puzzle, and every single answer is give me what I want and I'll go away. So we have it to where like these guys are just baffled by all this, and they're very like taken back about how like much control there has been here, of this like repeated message, that they aren't quite 100% sure what this all means. So Mike and Jack are left by themselves with Andre, and so we have Andre, who of course to tell Mike about the time that he cheated on some college exam so he can try to stay in school, and that at some point Mike should go on and tell his son about him cheating on this college exam. Like it'll be a good bedtime story to find out how, like, one bad deed that Mike is to go on and do. But also, Andre is to turn around and tell Jack about the story about him going on and him and a number of guys going on and assaulting this one person and losing the sight of their eye, and how and there wasn't a name of this character, but this guy was to go on and have this like really long hair that it seems all the guys were really attracted to, and so it seems that them going on and assaulting this person really turned them on in some bizarre way. And Jack is trying to get Andre to just shut up, and he doesn't know what this guy's talking about. And so we have Andre telling Jack that every day that this person is to go on and pray that he'll get his sight back in his eye, but it never will happen. Torturing this guy for what he had gone on and done in the past. So we, after that, we of course have Robbie and Henry and Hatch and everybody return back. And so we then go on and have our our people here are starting to jump to the conclusion of like, well, hey, like, wouldn't it just be so easy to just kill this guy off? Like, no one's gonna know. It's a small town. And Mike kind of turns to Robbie and is like, well, we would know. Like, we would know that he's dead. So, like, it would torture them for the rest of their lives, realizing that they had killed somebody wrongfully, unless they wanted to reestablish old ways of hangings and whatever. But so, but we have also Mike, who is to want to know how Andre is to know every single bit of these of this information about all these people, and this guy has no one bit of information on his body, on his person. Like, he has no wallet, he has no credit card, he has no ID of any kind. He doesn't even have like stitches of like little or brands or anything on his clothing to have any kind of information of even what kind of clothes he wears. So, like, this guy is to completely almost be like the Joker from The Dark Knight, where this guy is to, like, have no seemingly identification of any kind. So, we turn around and we, of course, have Mike, who is to talk to Hatch, and he is interested in possibly wanting to bring even more guys to watch over Andre, because if it seems that certain people are like slipping or dying around this guy, then like we should have like a big group of guys that are all watching this guy at one time, so that way no one slips, no one dies. So we have Mike that wants to go back to the town hall to try and get more men, but then to also like um, find his wife and kiss her, and so Hatch is like, well, okay, if you like if you see my daughter, kiss her, and if you see my wife, like tell her I love her, and so on and so forth. And so Mike tries to go into town to, or go into the town hall to meet with a bunch of people to hopefully see if he can recruit some people. Oh, well, we have that going on. Uh, we, of course, have Katrina, who is to go out to start grabbing for supplies, and we have one woman telling Katrina, it's like, well, hey, you should go on and you should get certain items, and you should get juice also. And we have some old lady that turns to Katrina. It's like, well, I'm sure Billy, who's already out there, isn't going to have any problem with juice. Isn't that right, Katrina? Really having this girl shame Katrina for like having her abortion. And so we have Katrina go off, and Katrina goes on to speak to Billy. And so Katrina is to go on and be upset with Billy because of his affair, but like Katrina could technically figure out that Billy was sleeping around, but like Katrina is just going on and on about Billy having his affair, And Billy is to turn around and be upset with Katrina because she was to abort their baby without consulting to Billy about that she was even pregnant. And that she had technically killed this baby. And so they're going back and forth about this over and over and over. And so all of a sudden we have Andre in his cell, and he, of course, is to be all of a sudden like being like in the area in his mind that both Billy and Katrina are at. And we have this moment where Andre is lifting up this supposed item over his head, and come to find out, when Katrina turns, Billy is to take this box and want to lob this box onto Katrina, but he stops himself. And we then turn around and have Katrina leave after this argument, and she all of a sudden is to see Linoge's cane, and Katrina grabs this cane, and while Billy's back is turned, Katrina starts beating Billy with this cane to death. And then Katrina, when people find her, she starts singing the I'm a Little Teapot song. So they end up finding Katrina and bringing her in and start wiping her face off. And some of the people in town are like, hey, you shouldn't wipe her face off like that. Isn't that technically evidence? And it's like, yeah, nobody went on and like took pictures of the crime scene to send them to the sheriff, because this is still whatever year. And so like we have like the sheriff who is kind of taking these photos himself. So yeah, like somebody probably contaminated a crime scene, but it is what it is with this show because it's a small town anyways. So Katrina is to mention what she had did, word for word, beating Billy with this cane, and oddly she is saying the cane made me do it. Like, no one go on and touch that cane, because it's like there's something about it. We also had Andre that was in the cell also doing that whole scene as Katrina was doing it also. So we have the two characters kind of mimicking these scenarios. And so we start to have people in town that are wanting like this girl arrested and thrown in jail, and they're just like, no, like she's just in shock right now, like we'll just have her sleep this off and she'll be fine the next day. And I just thought that was so odd, because it's like, I don't know if I could really trust Katrina, whether the devil made her do it or not, in this case. So I would tie her up. I would. So we also have Guy that God, where is he? Jonas Stanhope, who is going on and talking to the ladies and seeing what they could do, so on and so forth. So now, of course, that Katrina has killed Billy, we have Ursula, and we also have what is the other guy's name? We have Ursula and, heaven forbid, another guy go and leave off to make their way to meet up with Mike, because of course, since the radio is down, they aren't quite sure if they can get the message out or find things out. So Ursula wanted to go and meet up with Mike, and so Ursula, when going to the back of this grocery store, she finds out that Godso is dead, and she also is to be there with Mike, who is still there, and they are to try to put the pieces together and start to figure out like what's going on. And so we have Mike, who then goes off to the town hall to meet with everybody. And so by the time that Mike gets back to where everybody is, we all of a sudden have Mrs. Stanhope, who is singing I'm a Little Teapot in this bathroom. And for the guys who are watching over Andre in the cell, he is starting to like put his like makeup on, and as Stanhope is doing. And we, by the time that Mike gets to this bathroom, after we have Jonah, who is to spot Stanhope's dead body with the lipstick that reads like "Give me what I want and I'll go," We have Stanhope, whose face is just in the sink as she has drowned herself. I'm like, how is it that she's just in the sink like that? I'm just like, okay, like this doesn't exactly make much sense. Like you would think if she would drown, like her body wouldn't be standing that way. You would think like she wouldn't be able to drown herself in a sink. But I guess that's just me. You would have thought like a bath would have made more sense. Or something like that, or like a toilet even. But again, that's just me. So Mike, when meeting up with people, is to reconfirm with the people who were to find Billy dead. And Mike is to tell them, okay, like, is Billy really dead? And they're like, yeah, he's dead. We covered him up with these blankets because whenever somebody dies in the show, they just cover him up with blankets because heaven forbid they can do anything else. So Mike goes on and also tells these guys that Mrs. Stanhope is also dead. So we now like let's cover some of the stuff that happens at the grocery store. So now watching over Andre is to be Robbie Beals and one of the other people who's not like Hatch or something like that. And Hatch, Rick, and I think Jack are all like playing poker or playing cards. So in another room, all of a sudden, we have Andre, who is to channel Robbie's mother, and if we didn't already have Jack, that when Andre was to say more and more about that story and about that guy with the eye patch, and Jack was quick to grab this gun, and Mike was trying to stop Jack from shooting this guy. Jack ends up shooting, and it barely nicks Mike, luckily. But Andre is to give Mike back this bullet, just like, hey, here you go. Here's this bullet I found. And Mike is to like, did that shoot him? Did that like, did that impact him? Was that supposed to? Was he supposed to get killed here and it didn't? Do guns not work on this guy? Is that what we're seeing here? So, but then Robbie, who is talking to his mother supposedly, we have Robbie's mother that is guilt tripping him because Robbie's mother is to want to see Robbie, and like Andre here is portraying as if Robbie's mother is still in the hospital waiting for her son to come and see him before she dies. And so Robbie's mother is consistently calling out for him, and Robbie's like, okay, this has just got to stop. Like, this is going too far. And so Andre, who is Robbie's mother, is to say, it's like, well, Robbie, when you go to hell, like, I'm going to go on and I'm going to eat your eyes over and over and over again. Because in hell, like, hell's always repetition. Born in sin, come on in, Robbie. So, Robbie, of course, is so tempted to shoot Andre, and we all of a sudden see this massive glowing light of a thing, and we of course have Andre that is to tell Robbie, it's like, well, like, what are you shooting me with? As we of course see that we of course see Robbie, who is now holding a snake instead of a gun, and so he drops this gun. So we all of a sudden have this massive glowing light that comes out of this room. Hatch, Kirk, and Jack are to realize that this light is all of a sudden massively glowing. So Hatch goes on and is to get this axe to try to break into this room, that the door is to be shut closed. And so as they end up getting into the door, they then realize that Andre is to break open his own cell and is to go and speak to Hatch and tell him, it's like, well, like, give me what I want and go and I'll go away. Tell everyone that, and I at some point hopefully will go on and actually tell you what I freaking want. But so yeah, like, we now have Andre, who ends up shifting into this much older wizard looking guy, with this odd like staff or cane, and this cloak like get up, and this much more white like hair that is to be fairly long. So Andre ends up leaving to go to the lighthouse and just wait there. And so when Mike runs back to find out what is going on here, because Mike has brought in a number of guys to watch over Andre, of course, we have Hatch relaying this message to Mike about what this guy had said. And so it's just like, well, like, okay, like, we'll have to figure out what he wants. So now, considering the one prisoner is now gone from this grocery store, everybody just goes to the town hall. So we all of a sudden have people start to go to sleep, and we have guys like Mike who are sitting in front of this this TV with this kind of religious infomercial, and we have this preacher going on and on about like, can't you just go on and give a person in need what they want, and this and that, give me a hallelujah, give me an amen. And so Mike, while he's kind of fading off, is to say words like hallelujah or amen. So everybody's starting to fall asleep, and everyone is to have this same bizarre dream, of course, about how they are to all have this town in Maine to have disappeared, kind of like a town had before, and the only thing that was left from this town was, of course, a sign on a tree that says uh, Croatoan, which the person was to say, it's like, well, like, was that a misspell? What was it? And so, come to find out, they were to, of course, like, compare this to a town that lost 200 people, uh, which I guess was a true event, and so on and so forth. So they also had mentioned the number of bodies that they had found, whether they had either gotten murdered or that they had either gotten themselves self killed. So we then go on, and the one confirming thing by the end of this report is that Davy still is too short to play basketball. And so all of a sudden we have Davy who's like, man, yeah. So we also have Mike that is dreaming that every single one of these townspeople all have on their forehead the word Croatoan, and that they're all going to this pier and walking off and kersplushing their way into the water. And that since they did not go on and give this this Andre, this Linoge, what he wanted, that one by one everybody is going to slowly but surely be dragged into the pier and start dropping like flies. So we then have to start people waking up. And so, considering these people can't really sleep anyways, we continue to have them go on and start getting supplies and certain things for certain people, as we have characters like Molly, who is taking to have to like watch over these kids longer than she is to want to where she's like, man, I want to go on and desperately find a thing of alcohol and make it disappear, because she's like, yeah, I can't handle watching these kids for this length of time, to the point of them all going and trying to do pin the tail on a donkey. And it seems that Pippa is to go on and be the person who is to do the pin the tail on donkey, and so on and so forth. So we have Mike that goes off and is looking for like certain things to keep the kids busy. And then all of a sudden he ends up going to this room where he realizes that there is a bunch of blocks there, and he starts to reorganize them and realizes, oh my god, like, we've been looking at this guy's name all wrong, and we think that this guy's name is just some French name. And like, Mike is starting to ask like how many other French people are to, of course, make their way with Linoge. And come to find out, when Mike starts to shift the words around from the spelling of Linoge's name, he realizes, wait a minute, maybe this name is to actually be Legion. And so Mike ends up tying this whole thing he read in the Bible about how the Legion was to go on and be many, and mention themselves in like the third person. We have possibly Mike realizing what he's up against, something that cannot be stopped. And so we have Mike now also having his son that is to wander off in the middle of the night, because somehow we go on to have somebody whispering to Mike's son to come into this door, and is to talk about his like his fairy saddle and so on and so forth, having consistently somebody whispering to Mike's son, and Mike's son disappears through this door that closes. And so we have everybody in town going out at one moment to look at the lighthouse, and everyone is starting to realize that the lighthouse is going to get destroyed by this storm, that it's going to fall over. And the more that they just look on, we start to have Mike that is to try to tell everybody, like, well, wait a minute, everybody, like, let's try to get back into like the town hall or whatever, like, because like we could be in danger if we just we just stick around here. Something could happen, and so Mike is just trying to push everybody back in because of the dreams that everyone is to go on and have, that they could all possibly die. So, and I know I'm doing this in a very roundabout way, but there's a lot of stuff to just unpack in this episode anyways. So, so yeah, with that said, hopefully that does cover most of what happened in this episode. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this one. There's a lot to say here. Plus also there's like certain things that they go on it and bring up via this thing here. And so I was like, yeah. This one's a challenge. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I did forget about this episode, because there's a lot going on. Some sure little details and something like that I'll probably forget, because that's natural. Or it's like there's a lot of stuff that was probably out of order, I'll admit that, but either way, I was thinking like it's better off for me to just try to like bullet point, try to get everything out, rather than me trying to think about the perfect order of everything put in place. So with that said, thank you for going on and listening to this, because I really do appreciate it. One more episode to go. So yeah. With that said, I think I'm just going to go on and try to squeak out of here so I can put this out for the day. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody. More than likely, if I remember anything, there'll probably be a video shortly thereafter this. But if not, then goodbye.